What's going on, everyone? This is Evan. I hope y'all are doing well. I am making a video today to talk about a particular topic that is pretty fresh on my mind, something that I feel like is important to make some certain distinctions about, and to maybe clear some potential confusion about. And I wrote a couple things down here, and I'm just going to do my best to uh, kind of explain my viewpoint on what it means to pray. So, I uh, I wrote down some things, how the Hebrew definition, what the Hebrew definition means for prayer. Or it's interesting because so many of the words from original writings, like from ancient texts, let's say like the Bible, or, you know, even something like the Dead Sea Scrolls, or really any ancient text that's been translated many times and eventually becomes an English word. A lot of times the English words don't directly, what the English words mean don't directly translate or are pre-translated. It's interesting, like, because it can go back and forth, really hard to explain. But the English words generally don't mean exactly what the original language was intended for meaning, or what the original word actually meant. And there's actually multiple different meanings and multiple different words for a particular word in English. So I'm just going to read first a little bit on what I did a little bit of research and discovered here. So the Hebrew word tefillah, tefillah, not sure if I'm saying that right. It's a feminine noun. So I'll explain that too. There's masculine and feminine nouns in Hebrew. And for the most part, it's not always the case, but it's sort of similar to Spanish in the way, like ayo, ella means he, ayo, and she means ella. So in this particular case, feminine nouns generally end with a, or in, or some kind of a vowel, while masculine nouns end usually with no distinct end. It's usually just a consonant that sort of seals the end of the word, so to speak. So, feminine noun derived from the root palal, which is a primitive verb meaning to intercede, to pray, or to judge. So tefillah fundamentally means intercession, which would mean to put yourself between, or to put something in between. Supplication, which would it's usually referred to from a religious standpoint, like a specific asking to a deity or a higher power or something like that. That's what supplication would mean. Or self-judgment. So I found that interesting. I've said many times, like, don't judge yourself, but it depends also what you mean by judgment. Judgment can also mean to discern, and they're actually synonymous. So a lot of these words, they can be interplaceable words, right? Interchangeable is what I mean. Yeah. So in verbal form, lehit palel is a reflexive verb indicating that the act of prayer involves self-evaluation and introspection. So not an outward thing, actually. How it says self-evaluation and introspection, which I totally resonate with and totally believe. Prayer in Hebrew culture is not merely asking for needs to be met, but is viewed as a process of bonding with the divine and aligning one's will with God's source through humility and self-reflection. So, with all that being said, what does it mean to truly pray? So, to pray in English can also translate to begging. So this is where the mistranslations of or certain translations of English words can actually potentially lead people astray from the actual original meaning of certain words that were meant for something pretty much almost the exact opposite in a lot of cases. So prayer is not something that you do outwardly. You don't outwardly, you know, ask and beg basically for your needs to be met. Um, I believe that, like it says here, or like what I wrote down here, aligning yourself with the will of Source, which I personally believe is aligning yourself with your higher self, which is a higher frequency. And so by doing that through self reflection, self judgment, or discerning, to truly have like some self evaluation and to see where you're at and see like where you might be blocking your own self, even though you might be doing these outward prayer types of things or rituals like asking for this, asking for that, and wondering why these things aren't manifesting in your life. The reality is that you have some kind of a core fundamental belief that started from a thought, became a feeling, and then that feeling at some point, which is energy in motion, you started to speak these things as if you're lacking something. And the reality is that you don't lack anything. Everything that you need is within you. You are the source of it. You're made in the image and likeness of God, which is the source of all things. And so therefore, yes, we are fractals, individuations. You could fractured pieces of a whole, but not truly fractured, just seeming that way. Sort of like how light refracts in droplets of water, or say like fog. Like if you put a ton of light, or you put your high beams into a really foggy area, all those light beams start to refract everywhere, right? And you can't see through it. It actually all becomes just one big old thing that you can't really see through. So, aligning yourself with the will of God or source, whatever you want to call that, because I don't believe that God is like a bearded man in the sky type of thing. I'm sure a lot of y'all know that by now. That's what I believe. It does say in the Bible in English, it says to pray as if you have already received it, and to give thanks and gratitude in advance, because even when we think we know exactly what we need, there is a higher and grander, more in alignment with who we truly are on a higher level that we can't even currently comprehend. So think about this too. A child does not pray to their parents so that they can have food. And even Yeshua himself said, if you, being, human fathers, being able to give your children good gifts without them asking for it, how much more would your heavenly Father grant you even greater gifts, right? That's not, exactly what he said, but it's the same idea. So I guess unless that child grew up in like a religiously or an abusive household where they had to literally ask their parents for food, otherwise they would starve, which is absolutely horrible. I mean, I couldn't even imagine having a child and thinking that they had to pray to me and ask me for simple needs, like just to stay alive. So how much more would God grant you? Even the creative source of all things knows exactly what you need before you even ask for it. So what I think prayer really means is a lot of already what I said is aligning yourself to the best of your ability with the highest, your higher self, your higher form, the your form that exists in a higher dimension. Like, see, we are experiencing reality right now in this physical form on a 3D plane. Now this ties directly to DNA because we have strands of DNA that science used to call junk, but it's not junk. And the strands of DNA, the more we unravel and start to activate more of our DNA, directly correlates to levels of dimensions that we are able to experience and communicate with. So you have one, two, three. That's kind of like, those are like the first three dimensions, or last three, depending on if you're talking from a top down or bottom up perspective. Then you have 4, 5, 6, which would be, the dimensions where everything already exists for us. It's just the matter of connecting with that particular dimension and on a DNA level, and believing that they already exist while you're in a 3D state, even though it takes longer for these things to manifest in a denser reality. The higher up you go in these dimensions, the quicker and more immediate things happen, and they already do exist. It's not that they're happening, they already actually exist. And so then you have 7, 8, 9, and this correlates to your DNA. And then you have 10, 11, 12. 12-stranded DNA. All of us have at least 12 strands of DNA, most of which is dormant. And you could say that potentially even 13, 14, 15. Because Tesla, he said the secrets of the universe was 369. But the number actually that was left out, or that was taken out, I think purposefully, was 12, which completes the circuit, let's say, the particular circuit, because he was all about electricity. And I believe electricity is plasma. And plasma is conscious. And we are made of plasma. Plasma is conscious. And plasma in and of itself, interestingly enough, whenever it's been attempted to be weaponized, plasma actually does not want to be weaponized. Isn't that interesting? Anytime any, plasma weapons have ever been created, so you notice how, like, all of these different kinds of, like, advanced weapons or whatever, they're actually very primitive in the grand scheme of all things, and they're very temperamental and can be easily dismantled by higher beings, which has happened before, like melted nuclear reactors in certain areas that have been directly witnessed by military personnel. Yep, that's happened before. Probably by, benevolent plasma beings, right? Because why else? How else, right? So, really going on a tangent here, but I want to explain some of this stuff to help people to realize that you are able to create your own reality. And you actually are consistently, constantly, always creating your own reality. And also depends on your awareness. Awareness, awareness, awareness. Man, I really want to explain something about awareness. I need some help on this. Awareness, that's like, what is it exactly, man, that I'm trying to explain here? Eyes to see and the ears to hear. That's what awareness is, truly. To have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, put into words anyway. Awareness is the greatest gift that we have. Awareness is key to consciously create instead of unconsciously create. Because most people are unconsciously creating because they're unaware of who they really are. And what most people should, well, shoulda, coulda, woulda. I don't do that shoulda, coulda, woulda stuff. Um, People would be behooved to realize that they themselves are who they've been looking for. While relationships with people, I think, is a very good and positive thing, and is actually um, something that will naturally happen once you develop a better alignment with your higher self, and these things will naturally start to come into your life gradually. It's very important to develop that relationship with your higher self and to realize that you are who you've been looking for. And looking outside of yourself for yourself is counterintuitive. I could use the example of, like, soulmates. People are looking for meaning in other people instead of looking within, because you'll take a look within and you'll find that you are the one that you've been looking for the whole time. I'm quoting Samuel B. Lee because he says this all the time, and I totally fucking resonate with this. And plenty of other people have said this in different ways, but I like the way he says it because it's very true. It just is. And it's only as true for you in your immediate reality as much as you actually actively participate in looking within, truly self-reflection, discerning, judging yourself, let's say. Even isn't that interesting? So word play, I think a lot of life is about play too, and like not like calcifying yourself or solidifying yourself in a particular set of beliefs and judging other people, because what you judge in yourself, you judge in another. So if you discern something or judge something within yourself on true self-reflection, you'll actually be able to see that in others, you know and this could go for a positive or a negative, right? This is just polarity, neither good or bad. It's just a polarity. So if you judge yourself super negatively, you're going to see all of this negativity in other people. Like if you say, oh, the world is fucked, we're all fucked, I'm fucked, this is all fucked, and you will constantly attract and see everywhere examples of things being fucked. And you're actively, whether you know it or not, either consciously or unconsciously creating that reality, co-creating it. Because we're all kind of part of like a so-called hive mind or collective consciousness as human beings. And we are the stewards of this planet or this realm or whatever you think this place is. Doesn't really matter a whole lot. That I think the core principles, realizing that we're all one in this reality together, all part of source, is the most important thing. Core beliefs aside, that's really what's true, is that we're all one and that we're all participating in co-creation, either consciously or subconsciously. And once you become a conscious creator, oh man, that's like becoming lucid in a dream. You could say that this place is a dream, and the place that we go in so-called dreams, where it's a either higher or lower dimension. Usually, I would say it's a higher dimension. You could say that that's actually more real, but really they're both just as real, or both just a dream, depending on the way you see it, I guess, right? So, yeah. Trying to think of what else I could say about this. Just allow it to kind of flow. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if I got a whole lot else actually to say about this. I think I've said what I needed to say, and that this will, I just put trust, and that it'll reach the right people at the right time. And yeah, remember that you are a magnet for everything that you currently hold as true for you. You are a magnet for everything that you currently hold as true for you. So, like I said, if you believe the world is fucked, we're all doomed, then you're just doing that to yourself. No, you know, that's something that you need to, or have the opportunity to discern for yourself. And once you see it, you'll freak when you see it. That's just simply your frequency. Freak when you see. So words are powerful. Words are spells. And think about like the word um, to understand. When you understand something, you are standing underneath it. And it's almost kind of like a hierarchical. It almost seems to come from like a hierarchical kind of place to understand. Like I stand under you. Like say like somebody in authority asks you, "Do you understand?" And you say yes. You are actively or unconsciously or consciously saying or agreeing to standing under this particular authority. God in the Bible is very often, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on, because I think that any negative thing can be used for good, or evil thing, opposite of life, or to live, can be used for good by the true source of all things, true God. But God is often depicted as an authoritarian figure in the Bible, and that you must, you know, heed all of these ridiculous, unachievable rules. And if you sin, you need to, slaughter an animal or atone for your sins. This type of thing, atonement, that's an interesting. I might do a video on atonement as well at some point. I had to do a little bit more research on that, but I was looking into that myself too for what atonement means. But so I believe a more empowering, more self-empowering word that you could at least practice within yourself is to, instead of understanding something, you understand. You understand it. I understand what you say, or understand that concept within, instead of putting that concept above me as if God is somehow above me. God is actually within you. Just like the kingdom of heaven, Yeshua said, is within you. The kingdom of heaven is not something outside of you, it's within you. It's something that you can actively, consciously align yourself with. And that's what I believe aligning yourself with the will of God means, or what it was originally intended to mean in a lot of these ancient texts. And the will of God, it's a very hard thing, honestly. Any of these things are very difficult to put into words, although words do have a lot of power. And I believe that the very first language that was, um, you know, part of and that made up the first celestial, um, original human tribes that were, um, living in this world. Like, think about, I've said this before too, like in the beginning, God said, let there be light, and there was inaudible sound. There are inaudible sounds that we can't hear. And then the first audible sounds were the first original language of celestial human beings, the first 12 tribes. 12 comes up all the time. Think about this. I was just talking about 12-stranded DNA. Yeshua had 12 disciples. King Arthur had 12 knights of the round table. 12 pops up all the time, and 12 is the finishing number, like 3, 6, 9, 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. You know, that's like the circuit finishing itself. Coming back. It says it's free energy. You know what I'm saying? So when you're able to activate more strands of your DNA, you are becoming the source of whatever you believe, and whatever core beliefs, whatever root philosophies of life, you know, that that you attune to, because your brain, really, we as beings are kind of like radios in a way, or like, copper wires. And thoughts are all around us. They're energetic forms. In and of themselves, they're not that powerful. But a thought that you entertain, any thought that you entertain, becomes a feeling. And if you allow that feeling to become the spoken word, you are actively creating that reality. So whether it's a negative or a positive thought, you are either consciously or unconsciously creating that reality, and anchoring that into this denser 3D place, which is currently what we're experiencing is 3D. But I do believe that people are waking up to the fact that we are multidimensional beings. There's all these different dimensions, right? And once collective consciousness of humanity hits 51% of this higher frequency, let's say, like service to others, once you've aligned enough within yourself, and once we've aligned enough within ourselves on a collective consciousness for this entire planet, 51%, once it hits that, over 50%, that's when the big shift occurs. The shift that we as humanity have been waiting for. This is the time that we have all been waiting for. This is the incarnation that we have all been waiting for hundreds of thousands of years. This is the most important time, let's say, or point in this current iteration of humanity's history that has ever been. I mean, we're talking like this happens once every millions, however many millions of years. And that's why there's a lot of beings overseeing and watching, and that's why a lot of things are ramping up. A lot of the light, all things, all these different things from the darkness that have been kept hidden, they're being brought to the light. and it's, it's scorching. It's a scorching, brilliant, refining light that will burn out all of the impurities. And from our perspective in the 3D, it will look like things get a lot worse before they get better, and we're seeing that already. So I highly encourage all of you, anybody who's watching this, to remember that where you put your attention, you are actively participating in creating more of that. Even if you're not like out there physically doing something, like out being in like wars and everything like that, I think awareness is okay. But actively putting so much of your attention on these things is helping to create more of it. But I also believe that we're at a point where now it's an inevitability that things are ramping up so fast and so quickly that even within, people's individual lives, things within our own shadow, all the different houses of our own internal mansions, dimensions, you know, are being brought to light, and really we have no choice but to, well, I guess there's always a choice. You can either look at these things or you can resist them and persist them and fall deeper and deeper into a black hole, or you can go through the discomfort of seeing these things that have been, locked away within you for a very long time, like like your inner child um that has been throughout humanity been systematically been entrained into us to, become adults so quickly, so-called adults, when I personally believe that you cannot mature fast enough by the time that you're 18 years old to say that you have enough life experience to be a true adult. Many Native American tribes believed, and I totally believe this too, that a true adult, once you first become an adult around the age of 50 years old. And humans used to live a lot longer than what, we're living now, as so far as a collective average. Even like 2,000 years ago, the average age of an Essene, which Yeshua was an Essene, he was a part of that tribe. The average age was 120, and that's average back then. Even after all of the the DNA scrambling and the genetic intervention from 200 plus thousand years before that to systematically make humans live less chronological years. So that would limit their ability to truly gain wisdom and to make more of an impact in a world like this. Because there were beings that were very jealous. They actually were very disturbed by humans' ability to do what we are able to do. And they even, that's why you don't try to play God. you don't try to play God. Even after their DNA experiments, they became even more disturbed by something that they had done. I won't go too deep into that, but look into it if you want to, I suppose. I think it's all really interesting, but it starts with you. It starts with you. Look within. Look within, and you'll find that you are the one that you've been looking for the whole time. You are made in the image and likeness of the Almighty One, Almighty Creative, Source of all things. So therefore, you are a creator, and you are co-creating with every action, every thought that you entertain, and feeling that you allow to become the spoken word. you know? And it's not to say that, like, if you have, like, a negative thought or something, even if, like, you're doing really good stuff in your life, like I said, thoughts are nowhere near as powerful as the spoken word. Although words can sometimes be limiting, it's really the intention behind the words. So I guess really that might just be the ultimate takeaway from all of this. But I think all of these things are can be good to consider. So I think I'm gonna leave it there. That's it. So I hope y'all have the best day ever, best day yet, because I am. I'm choosing to. And until next time, leave any comments if you choose. Shred onwards and so forth as always, warriors.